What's going on, beloved? Another motivational morning. Listen to this. So this morning I was getting ready and I realized if if a high achiever had like an AA meeting, it would probably go something like, "Hi, my name is Christopher and I'm a high achiever." Everybody would say, "Hi, Christopher." And I'd say it's been 24 hours since my last high achievement. And it doesn't feel like a high anymore. I just feel normal. I actually feel like I haven't done anything. And then the professional counselor probably say, "So talk to us more about that. What does that feel like? What is what's going on?" And I just tell them I don't know. I think that the high achievement is the addiction. I am well, clearly it is, right? Because that's what the AA meeting is about. So like I feel like I've built a tolerance. Every time I achieve something, there's got to be something more and greater to achieve. And then he might get to this point where he asks the question, so you talked about not sleeping well. So tell us about that. Have you been, have you gotten any rest, over the last 24 hours? And I'm telling him, yeah, I have actually. But I didn't do anything. All I did was just sleep. Did you sleep well? Yes, I slept very well actually. Did you get up this morning and did you do your pseudo burpee challenge? Yeah, I did that too. Did you hit the 60 mark today? Yeah, I did. It was a struggle, but I got it done. I hit 60. So you still feel like you haven't achieved anything? Yeah, I didn't hit the marks that I set out for yesterday. I had a grad application that was due, and even though it was given to me um, a little bit close to the deadline, because I wasn't even aware of this particular one. There is one that's still working on, but this was a new one. I didn't get to finish that, and just had some other assignments that's not due yesterday, but wanted to get a head start on that and didn't really get to complete those fully. And so I'm going down the list of things that didn't work. And he's going to, or she is going to, talk to me in front of the group and say, "But you got other things done though. You still achieved particular milestones, or maybe not milestones, but particular uh, responsibilities or things that you set out to do that may not seem like a big deal to you, but for some people, that's huge. Like what? Like rest." "What do you mean, like rest?" "Well, you've had a difficult time sleeping, and now you can sleep. So what that means is that you have chosen to let go of everything, let your mind at ease, and just be at peace." Even if it was for 8 hours. And guys, I got a full 8 hours yesterday. And I think that if there was a meeting like that, I would probably struggle. And the reason why I would struggle and go back and forth is because there is a mindset that we have when it comes to, especially for those of us that are, I think it could be an addiction of achievement. I really think it is. There's a mindset that we have that we have to complete things to its fullest and its best and its greatest, in comparison, not necessarily just to ourselves, but in comparison to other people, in comparison to what we see on either social media or whatever it is. And so I don't know if they have one, but an achievers AA meeting would probably be a good idea, especially for individuals like me. I used to say, "Oh no, I'm not a high achiever. I don't do that." But actually it's yeah. Yeah, there are those of us that really do struggle with this idea of making sure that everything needs to be done to its perfection or just in its totality. And if it's not, then the day was a bust. And so, to an extent, I really felt that way. Here's what we're going to talk about today: this idea of resting. So, if we look at Genesis chapter 2, and it says, and the reason why we have to go into chapter 2 is because this is where everything ends, right? It says, "So thus the heavens and the earth and all the host of them were finished. And on the seventh day, God ended his work, which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work, which he had done. And he blessed the seventh day, sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work, which God had created and made. That's cool. So he stopped creating the world on the seventh day, but that doesn't mean that he stopped creation altogether, if that makes sense. If he stopped creation altogether, then there'd only be 6 days. But he allowed an extra day to be added. And it's weird, right? Like he didn't say, I'm going to create this, but there was a 7th day. The 7th day was created. I mean, that's just the reality, even though everything is in a cyclical pattern. So you guys kind of wrap your head around that as I'm trying to wrap my head around that as well, right? So there's the cyclical pattern. He says, okay, we're going to make it cycle one more time and we will call that day 7. That's a creation. But everything that he did, the forming and the filling of the earth and everything, that was done. By not creating anymore, he actually created a space for rest. And I think that for a lot of individuals, and if you're like me, you have to embrace the fact that a lot of you might be high achievers and you don't want to admit it. You might be overworkers. You might be, people who just are driven by work. My yesterday's devotion said, you want to know where your heart is? Like, it says where your don't put your heart where, I can't remember the verse, how it goes, but it's like wherever your heart is, that's where your treasure is going to be. Like that's the thing. And they were like, listen, if you want to know where your heart really is, follow the money. And I didn't even have to look into my bank account to see where the money went. It went to investments for work stuff. And most recently, like self-care. And I realized, wow, that's a shift, because before it would just really only be about work. Everything that you make, you go put right back into the business. Take it, put it back in, take it, and bills. There was really not much else. And so now, as of late, over the last 2 weeks, I realized, I'm going to start investing also in myself. So now things have shifted. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Like, what does my 7-day recreation looks like? I've got a coach, I got a therapist. Like, there are things now that we have put in place so that it's not just about work. You got to have a shift. So I challenge you, look at your statements, look at follow the money, follow where your budget is leading. And you will see clearly what you have. Get the receipts, if it was cash, and you'll see where your heart is. Okay. So he didn't create anything on the world. He created rest by doing that. And here is what the big crux is. You probably saw it in the description. That means that God himself had to trust that everything that he put in place was still going to do its job, even though he took his hand off of the wheel. Like a Tesla. Yeah. It's just this idea of I've created the foundation. I've formed everything. I've made the separations. I've done the boundaries. I have filled everything. I've done everything that's necessary now. Now I'm going to step back. I'm going to enjoy the work that I have created. Okay, let's get a little bit more practical. So today I hit number 60, and you know what happened? So even though I still do the burpees, I still got setups to do, still got dips to do. Your boy ain't do no dips today. Like I'm good. But between the burpees and the sit-ups, like the bicycle crunches, I had to rest a little bit longer. It wasn't easy. And in my mind, I'm still thinking, but I got to get this done if I don't get it done. And the other part of me, which is really my body, was like, bruh, chill out, relax. 4 minutes. You just did an what is it called? An HIIT. What is that called, guys? A high interval intensity training. I think that's what it is, right? Like you hit 60, which means that for every day for the past 10 days, you've passed 50. And 2 weeks ago, you weren't even in. Like, so your body is like, you got to relax, man. The next set is going to come. But let your body I need to relax. And so when we did the whole, because now it's me and my body, right? And I sat down, breathing heavy, took the full 4 or 5 minutes. Hey, yeah, that hit hit. That joint hit, bro. Let me tell you something. All right. So it's crazy because, you know what? Speaking of which, P, since you, since you're on, I don't know how long you're going to be on, but we're talking about, high achievement. And if, high achievement had like an AA meeting, what it would look like. And I was explaining, kind of role playing that to a lot of us, it can be an addiction of trying to reach the next thing. My achievement, not in the last 24 hours, but in the last 8, was actually getting good rest, like genuine rest. Right. So my boy P, I hope you can, this ain't private, right, P? So you sent me something yesterday. I think it was yesterday or the day before, from Adam Grant. It said one reason why so many high achievers are unhappy is their expectations rise faster than their accomplishments. Success is most satisfying when you have high aspirations but modest expectations. You can set ambitious goals without taking it for granted that you'll attain them. I told P, yeah, that's true. But the high achiever in me says, nah, that's bull, man. Go hard or go home. like that's for me, that's what it was, right? It was like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, don't set high expectations too high, because then, if you don't make them, then you're just gonna feel like you're you run yourself ragged. I struggle with that statement. I think that I think a lot of us do as well. First of all, accept the fact that you're probably a high producer, you're a high achiever. So this video isn't for everybody. For a long time, I didn't think that I was. But guys, I'm stressing, and I keep saying this because some things you have to keep saying to yourself. I'm stressing over the fact I literally have 2 weeks left of school, but I still say I have 4 because that's what it feels like. 2 weeks left. And if I were to fail every assignment left right now, I'd probably still have like a 3.9. But I'm running myself ragged because I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get to 4. Why? You got to go back into the roots. Remember, we talked about that a couple of days ago. You have a foundation, but the vegetation that comes up is based on the roots that you got to track down. Well, my mom's got an MBA and she got a 4. Ain't no way I can have less than that. That we come from we are cut from a particular cloth. So there's this level of achievement where I have to start trusting that the work that I've already done will take care of itself. That's it, y'all. I don't got nothing else for the rest thing. But if y'all have anything that y'all want to talk to me about, if y'all want to hit me up in the comments, y'all let me know. But this is what it boils down to. To have true rest, you have to have full trust. You have to have full trust in what you made. You have to know that, okay, I started reinventing, I started creating over, I started over, I put in the work, I've done what was necessary. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to relax at least for a day. Some of y'all need to take naps throughout the day. Some of the way that some of us work, your brain just needs to, and actually my body was fighting to take one yesterday. And I was like, nah, because if I hold out, I have a better sleep at night. And that was true. That was true. But man, perhaps the reason why I didn't feel as productive yesterday was because my body was screaming out, bro, I just need a rest, man. You've been hit the 50, crossing the 50 threshold of burpees every day for the last week. You don't want to just take a little night, like, and I'm like, no, I'm good. So here's the thing. You got to figure out, and it's different for everybody. Everybody has their own threshold, but I guarantee you, if you don't rest, and I guess that's the title, I got to address the title. If you don't rest, you will shut down. If you don't rest, you will get sick. If you don't rest, for some of you, you will get deathly ill. If you don't rest, you just won't be at the top of your game like you should be, right? Question, how do we distinguish between resting and ignoring responsibilities? Yeah, there's a fine line between not worrying and not caring. You know what I think, P? I think that the way that you determine that is what you did in the last 6 days. You can't rest if you didn't work. It just doesn't exist. So if you didn't go through the process of the forming and the filling, if you didn't do your day one, or at least embracing the day one of the darkness and the void, realizing, wow, that was a God-given thing. He's placed something in me. Cool. I need to have awareness. Let there be light, right? And now you start identifying strengths, weaknesses, light, darkness, identifying past stuff from present stuff, identifying your I don't know, like maybe your hurt from your your capacity to withstand certain things, whatever it is. Like you start identifying those things. That's day one, right? You're doing the work of identifying those things for you. And then day two is you are now figuring out I think what is day two? What do you create on day two? And light, darkness. You got the other one where he separates the sky from the sea. Don't worry, we'll go into detail into it tomorrow. You create the boundaries, right? And then you start establishing a foundation. You start establishing a foundation that gives you this ability to have habits, routines, things that is going to form your character. But then you realize vegetation comes up and it doesn't look that well. Because remember, he also created vegetation on the foundation in the same day. And I think he did that for a reason. And so you got to start going out into the root. So for me, one of the things that I did yesterday, and I'll talk about it tomorrow, but things that I did was like, I need a therapist. I got to figure out some of the root stuff. So now I have other people, that's, day 4, 5, and 6, who are now sustaining the work for me. A lot of that stuff that needs to be cultivated and just to be ruled. You need birds in the air, rule the air, fish in the sea. You got somebody that needs to rule the sea. You got animals and people on the land. You got people that need to govern those things. So I think it's the same thing for us, right? Mind, body, and spirit. You got to have the people who's going to help you to govern those things. So, yeah, I think that's how you distinguish between resting and ignoring. And I'll be honest, I think that there is a time when your body will choose to ignore responsibilities because you chose not to rest. So it's kind of a slippery slope. I think it's kind of a slippery slope because there's one side of you, especially if you're a high achiever, where you feel like you're always lazy. You're not doing enough. And then there's the other side where your body, your mind, your spirit will say, you've been working so hard that I'm going to choose to shut down or ignore or just to not do right now. I am not capable. We're going to break down. And there's nothing that you're going to do about it until we are ready to get back up. We being like your mind and your, until we are ready, we're shutting down. And so, yeah, it's a fine line. There is definitely a fine line. Yeah, you can't rest if you don't work. Yeah, Brian. Like that is the real for me. It's not that you don't put in the work. For a lot of us, remember, I'm not talking about the people who are struggling with just trying to be productive. I'm talking about those of us, man, who have been working for a minute, but yet for some reason it feels like we haven't because we have chosen not to celebrate the small things. Guys, I hit 60 today. You would think I'd be like, yo, I did it. Nah, you know what I felt like when I did it? This is in the moment, and I'm becoming more aware of what's happening. In the moment, I felt like, and this is me now, I'm more aware of what's happening. I sat down because I'm breathing heavy. It's like, no, don't sit down. You got to stand up. You got to get the cavity to open up. Like, I was like, no, I'm tired, man. I need to sit down. And then all I see myself is doing this. I'm just shaking my head. And I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. Why are you shaking your head? Like you just did, bro, you just hit 60. Nod your head. Like, yeah, you did. And I had to coach myself in telling myself that I did it. Sometimes I work to meet a sense of accomplishment, but ignore what I should really focus on. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that's the high part. That's the high in achievement, not like high as in expectation, high as in addiction, right? Like we have a high, like if there's something that we don't want to do, yeah, we would find something else. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes you need that. Not all the time, but sometimes you need some stepping stones. So let me give you a good one. So today, you know what I ended up doing? I realized that part of the root of why it's getting more difficult to do the burpees challenge, nobody made this up. This is for me, it's my own thing, right? Was I don't stretch in the mornings. I literally roll out of bed and now I have to coach myself. I'm like, okay, all right, come on, let's do this. Let's get this done. And then I jump right into it. Today, I was like, nah, we at 60. I'm gonna need to stretch your boy out. Tried to touch my toes. Couldn't even pass the ankles. Like, I spent more time doing the prep work. And for me, I said, to an extent, if I can accomplish the stretching, then I can actually do what I really need to focus on. So, yeah, once again, Pierre, I really think that there is a fine line. There's a fine line, man, between what you probably need to do, the small steps to get to the big thing, versus just eat the frog. Eat the frog in the morning, right? That's the first thing that you need to do. The hardest thing, get it done, get it out of the way. If I'm honest with myself, last night I went to bed a little bit earlier because I knew I had 60 to do. Like I knew 60 was coming. I was like, no, I need some rest because I know how I felt yesterday at 59 and it ran me ragged. So I was like, you know what? Let your boy go to sleep just a little bit earlier today because tomorrow it's going to be rough. And I got it through. Theodore says sometimes we need to check off some of the boxes on the to-do list to get going, to get that momentum. Yeah. You know how we do that? So Twyla Tharp has an amazing book. I don't even think I read all of it, but I read enough of it to get the point. Creative Habits. And she says that the way that you check off the boxes, on the to-do list to get going is your routine. You have a morning routine, an evening routine, or any kind of routine that gets you into the actual thing that needs to be done. So it's probably the most classic example that she uses. And one of the things that she says is for her, working out in the mornings, she hates it, but she knows that she has to do it. So what she does, this is before Uber existed, was she called a cab or schedule the cab to come in the morning. It's like 5 a.m, something like that. And the cab would come, and I don't know, I guess, the taxi would like honk. This is New York City. Pretty sure to honk or, whatever to let her know that he's, outside of her house. And for her, that was a sense of accountability because you've got the cab outside waiting. I'm pretty sure I, jacked up the whole scenario, but the point is this. The point is she put some things in place to an extent. Those are accomplishments, but it's really a routine so that now when it shows up, she's like, man, I gotta go now. I just did all of the work to actually get the cab to come. The cab is outside waiting for me. Do you guys know why it's easier for me to get up and to do the 8 o'clock joint? It's because I told you guys that I was going to get up and do the 8 o'clock joint. There's this level of accountability. Do you know why it pushed me to do the 60? I definitely prayed and was like, God, I got to get 60. I don't know if I'm going to do 60 burpees without you because I told y'all yesterday that I did 59. And the last thing that I would want is for somebody to be like, yo, so in the comments, like, so how'd that 60 go? And I'm like, yeah, I didn't make it. As I was actually doing it too, in my mind, I was replaying, what could I tell people? How could I spin the idea that I didn't make 60 today? That I only did 30. And you can use the whole, sometimes, you don't make it your goal, but you can fight again the next day. I was literally, as I was hitting the midpoint, trying to come up with a reason to tell y'all today why 60 wasn't going to work. And I said, no, that's not going to help somebody, at least not in this season. Now, of course, one day your body will give out and be like, okay, we got, you push till failure. But yeah, today wasn't that day. So there are fine lines. There's a fine line between resting. There's a fine line between resting and being lazy. There's a fine line between not caring and not worrying. There's a fine line between accomplishing things to have a sense of accomplishment, like Pierre was saying, to get you to do the thing, versus accomplishing things to get a sense of worth and to deceive yourself into not doing the thing that you're supposed to do. When you get into the nuance of productivity, it starts to get very slippery. Nuanced, And I think that that's where, at least for today, you got to trust what you have done stands on its own. You got to trust that the stuff the work that you've put in, the ideas, the thoughts, guys, I was showing you, right? So like the last couple of weeks, like I've been going back into these old books and I'm like, wow, I already did a lot of the work years ago. So now I'm in a new space and I'm having questions and I've already got the answers. Like some of you, a lot of you already have the answers, right? We talked about that. Day 4, I think it was, or day 3, the sea just separated and the land appeared. You already got the foundation. It's somewhere deep inside. It's probably in a journal somewhere. It's probably in a prayer book. It's probably somewhere around your house, maybe deep in your mind. And that's why you need somebody to tap into that to help you to unveil it. You don't have to create a foundation. It was already there. You just need to separate all of the stuff around it so that it can actually reappear. And that's what we're talking about. So you got to trust it. You got to trust that everything that is supposed to happen has happened. And if it hasn't, Just step your game up. Get your weight up. But for those of us that struggle with whether or not it has, it most likely has happened. All right. So that's it, man. Y'all better rest, man. Y'all better rest. I have to now rest even more and do stretches and stuff in between and all of this stuff just to get to the goal. Oh, another reason why, here's another reason why it's getting more difficult to do the challenge, like, doing the burpees, is I'm gaining weight. So here's the thing, and this is a good thing, because y'all know for skinny folk like us, ectomorphs, it's a difficult task just to gain weight. As a matter of fact, I have a secret desire to gain enough weight just to get my wrist like bigger. I mean, your wrist will never get bigger because that's a bone, right? But for those of you that are skinny like me, like that's a part of you is like, oh my God, put your whole finger around it, like, oh my God. So, but there are things that I that I want to like just have a heavier weight. That's just part of my thing. And actually, as you can see, like the sleeve kind of getting up a little bit more, that means the boy got a little chest going out right there. What I'm saying is this. Sometimes it's not even just because of rest. Yeah, I know. You got skinny wrist problems too, right? Hey, listen. So listen. Here's the thing, guys. Sometimes it's not even about your mindset why you couldn't do a particular thing. We talked about that. We're going to talk about it again tomorrow. Sometimes it's just some physical stuff. Like I'm getting heavier. So it's harder to do the push out, then the push up, then the squat back in, and then the jump. Every time I jump now, I feel like a fat person. It's tough, right? So what I'm saying is that there are changes that are going to happen with the growth. Put in the work. I have, I think I'm like 95 days since I've actually been doing the exercises and all of that. And that's achievement in itself. Now, is that the only thing? No. Here's the last thing that I'm going to tell you. Okay, so rest or else you will die. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is lost my train of thought. Rest or you'll die. I see y'all later.